Thank you very much for joining our Clear Dynamics webinar, No Data Left Behind. My name is Dan Baker, and I lead the sales engineering team here at Clear Dynamics. So today I'll be talking about our unique data-first approach to app modernization and why I believe data-first will become a common strategy for high-performing IT organizations. Data is a precious thing and will last longer than the systems themselves. Tim Berners-Lee is sometimes misattributed to being the inventor of the internet, which isn't quite true, but he did create the first browser and some of the sort of common protocols that are used today to power the internet, such as HTTP. Despite this quote being many years old, who could have foreseen how relevant it would be in today's world? In the world of AI, data is an organization's most valuable asset. Systems do and will continue to come and go. But the data that an organization actually collects and it maintains and it holds is what is truly valuable and unique to that organization. So why do systems need to be replaced? Why is almost every organization undergoing some sort of digital transformation? And the answer is technical debt. Tech debt comes in many forms. It can be outdated technology. It could be poor system design. It could be a people process recruitment issue. It could be end-of-life vendor products. So there's a long list of causes for technical debt. And last year, analysts estimated that technical debt globally was a $1.5 trillion problem. And we've spoken to many organizations where 80% of their budget and 80% of their developers' time is spent maintaining existing systems rather than being able to build new capabilities. The signs of technical debt can vary between organizations. It could be that IT or engineering are unable to keep up with the rate of change. Security breaches or actual data, so security sort of concerns or actual data breaches may continue to be a concern that are unable to be addressed. Shadow IT within the organization could be increasing because IT is not able to satisfy the needs of the business or the internal users. Internal teams could be spending more time maintaining systems than actually improving them. It could be difficult to hire new staff because no one really wants to work on the outdated technology stack that the business is running on. But the end result is that organizations with technical debt are unable to adapt to market conditions and unable to deliver on new requirements in an effective and timely manner. So to address this, organizations undergo a process of digital transformation or application modernization. And there are three high-level approaches to this. First, you have COTS, or customized off-the-shelf software. And if you can find a product that meets the majority of your requirements, has the ability to be customized to, save a small percentage of requirements that it doesn't meet out of the box, then this can really make sense. In my experience, this works really well for very well-defined use cases where there's a wide variety of off-the-shelf products which can meet that need. And it's especially a good fit if your organization can change its processes to match how a particular product works. The advantage of going down an off-the-shelf product path is that this offers a particularly fast time to value, a shorter implementation process, especially if you're not doing too many customizations. You then have the option to build a bespoke system using software developers. This can be a more expensive process and it can take longer, but it does offer greater flexibility and it allows you to retain control of exactly what features and functions that software system will provide. In the last few years, low-code platforms have risen to prominence, and for good reason. They offer a mix of the speed of a COTS implementation, but they retain the flexibility of a bespoke application. Now, it doesn't really matter which of these approaches you go with. You're generally going to end up what I would call using a data last approach when it comes to migrating your data into the system. So what does that actually mean? It means that when you're migrating your actual production data into the system, it's going to be done at the end of the process as one of the last steps after the application's already been built before you push into production. This would typically be done by things like a custom script, like spreadsheets, ETL tools. But generally, there's nothing built into your new application or your target platform that really helps you perform this migration easily. And getting it wrong can be very costly. Some of the outcomes could include compromised data integrity. You may have incomplete data. There can be compliance issues if you need to be able to retain data for a particular period of time. It's definitely not unheard of that you even need to run 2 or 3 systems in parallel while you're trying to move the data around between the different systems. In my career, prior to Clear Dynamics, I've been part of multiple system upgrades where an organization has chosen to lose, years or decades of data because it was too complicated or too costly to import that data into their new production system. And because data migration occurs towards the end of a project where timelines are tight and the work is getting rushed, then it's not necessarily thoroughly tested. And if you did have any data cleansing or structural improvements that were earmarked for this process, they may end up being deprioritized. Also, using a data last approach, you miss out on a huge opportunity, which is to actually leverage this data by using AI and automations to generate parts of your new application for you. So no matter the approach, it could be COTS, bespoke, or a low-code platform, modernization following today's most common practices is where you migrate your data in at the end, which is risky. It's expensive and it's time-consuming, it's complicated. And I would say that up until fairly recently, this was probably the only real option. However, we're now in a position where we can ask ourselves, what if that fundamental approach that we've taken to app modernization for the last 30 years or even longer is not the best approach? And what if we can utilize AI and other advancements to do things in a much faster and a much more cost-efficient manner? And that's what we do at Clear Dynamics, and that's why we are data first, and everything that we do follows this data first principle. At the heart of our data first approach to app modernization is our clone to cloud process. This is a multi-step process that starts with your organizational data, and it allows us to automate up to 98% of the application modernization process. We take your existing application, the data, and the business rules, and we generate a new cloud-native modern application using that. So we start by actually taking the data schema of the application that we're modernizing. We ingest that schema. We run it through a data normalization and optimization process to produce a well-formed data schema for your new application. As part of that process, we also produce a set of migration scripts so that we can take that legacy data and import it directly into your application using the new updated schema. Now, what we then do is we actually generate a working application based on your new updated data schema. And then we import the production data in. So at the end of step 1, you have a fully functioning CRUD app, or create, read, update, delete application. And the data migration is already working, it's already tested, it's already there. Then what we do is we use some machine learning techniques and large language models, and we run analysis over the data and the legacy system so that we can automatically generate business rules, business processes, and workflows out of that legacy application and automatically apply them to the new application. So using this approach, we can generally automate anywhere from 50 to 98% of the development of applications that we are modernizing. And we're cutting the total time taken in order to do that by an order of magnitude. And it doesn't stop at just the integration level, but it continues on to the, it doesn't stop at the application level, it continues on to the integration level. No application that we develop today really sits standalone by itself. Every application is integrating to either internal or external applications. And for any integrations that are based on open standards, whether we can provide a WSDL, a WSDL file, an open API specification, even an Excel file with an integration definition, we can generate the majority of the integration out of the box. And that reduces the human element of this to simply mapping fields together, or even just confirming how fields map together based on AI-generated mappings. So in summary, a data-first approach means that we can automate the majority of the work required to modernize a legacy application or even a set of legacy applications. And this means we can reduce the risks associated with that process, such as data loss, projects running over time and over budget due to a failed migration. We can guarantee the data integrity of your new application. And at its core, a data-first approach delivers faster time to value in a more cost-effective manner. But it doesn't end there. We're just at the very beginning of AI and automation-powered app modernization. So if I've just described to you how using a data-first approach, we can cut the timeline to modernize a legacy application from, say, a year to a month, then on the near horizon, I'll be talking to you about how we can cut that month down to maybe a couple of days. And we'll be able to do this using the same clone to cloud process that we do today with just a couple of key enhancements. And this is what it's going to look like. First, we'll take the same set of organizational data and data schema as we do today. However, before sending that into our clone to cloud process, we will also combine that with a set of requirements written in plain English, in a PDF or a Word document. And we're going to feed that combination of data and requirements into our AI-empowered clone to cloud process. And this will produce a new, modern, cloud-hosted application that is secure, compliant, scalable, and production ready. Now, not only that, but we will also be able to make changes to the application and then generate an English version of what those changes are and write that back into our requirements doc. And it means that we're now at a point where I, as a software developer, and I have an app running on the Clear Dynamics platform, I can go in, I can make changes to my app, and it will actually automatically go take those changes and write them back into the requirements document. Alternatively, let's say I'm not a software developer, I'm a business analyst. I could choose to update the requirements document and then pass it back through the process, the clone to cloud process, and that is going to create a new version of the software which matches my new requirements. So organizations who choose to adopt and embrace this technology are going to have really unparalleled ability to very quickly change and adapt their systems and their processes as needed, which is going to give them a really incredible leg up in competitive market conditions. So this, for me, this is really exciting. This is really cool. There is one caveat I would discuss when looking at this as well, and that is that code that is generated by AI is imperfect. In fact, in many cases, not particularly good. So anyone that's played around with AI code generators would know that it can do some pretty amazing things, but producing production-ready, secure, enterprise-grade software is not really one of the things that it's good at. And there's a number of reasons for this, and some of them are probably never going to be fixed. They are going to be, or if they are, it will be a long way in the future. It's not something that's going to be fixed anytime soon. So large language models, which are used in generative AI, they have a context window, which is effectively a limit on how much data you can give them or how much an LLM can understand about an application when you ask it to generate some new code. And this context window is limited in size. And what that means is that once an application becomes too big or complex, your AI agent or your large language model, it can no longer really understand the entire application. And any new features that it's add are likely to be very buggy or duplicates are not working properly. AI-generated code as well, it's often not very human readable, and that means that it's hard for humans to reason about what that code is doing, which makes it harder to validate, harder to test, and means that it's buggy code. However, the Clear Dynamics platform actually generates code based on configuration. So if I come back to our previous diagram, let's update this to actually what we are actually doing in our clone to cloud process. We actually use AI to generate configuration, and then we use that configuration to generate the code using our own proprietary low-code platform. And that means that based on a set of configuration, we can guarantee that the same code is generated every time and that it will meet all the non-functional requirements required by enterprises, such as security and scalability. Also, because our platform can potentially generate thousands of lines of code for each line of configuration, the previous concern around the limitation of size of a context window practically becomes a non-issue, because we'd be talking about an almost inconceivable size of system before the configuration no longer fits within a modern LLM's context window. And finally, because the configuration that we produce is human readable and it's visible in our low-code platform, it's therefore very easy for humans to understand and validate the logic that is being generated. So to me, this is really exciting. I really do believe that in the next few years, this approach is going to fundamentally change how organizations deliver upon application development and modernization objectives. So to summarize, if you're looking for a better way to modernize applications, if you're looking for an approach that's faster, that's lower risk, lower cost, please reach out and we can discuss your use case further. And that concludes today's webinar. So I hope everyone found that fun and informative. I will be staying online for a few minutes. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. Now I can see a couple of questions I think that have come through here. So the first one, where are the applications that are built using this process hosted? Okay, so this is where are the applications hosted? So most of our customers choose to let us host their applications in our cloud environment, the Clear Dynamics cloud environment, which is in Australia. But for organizations that have security or regulatory requirements where this is going to be a problem, we do allow customers to self-host the applications in their own cloud environment. And then I also see another question here, which is, you mentioned a low-code platform. Is that something Clear Dynamics has built? And so, yes, all of the applications that are built using our clone to cloud process are compiled and deployed by our low-code platform, which we call AEOS. And this would cover your requirements across the entire software development lifecycle. So this includes things like version control, CI/CD pipelines, and deployments. And then, if any updates are made to applications post go live, then this happens within the AEOS platform itself, which can then generate a new version of the application. Very good. Look, Thank you, everybody, for attending the webinar today. I hope you found it fun and informative, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.